Blackburn boss Gary Bowyer has urged owners to be more cautious when dispensing with British managers after Chris Powell was shown the door at Charlton. Powell vacated the title of the Sky Bet Championship's longest-serving manager when he was sacked by the Addicts last Tuesday, with the club's Belgian owner Roland Duchelet swiftly appointing fellow countryman Jose Rigo as his successor. It's disappointing. He's a great guy and I'm really disappointed for him, Bowyer said of the axed Powell. This country has got to be careful with how it looks after its coaches and managers. Each of the three most recent managerial appointments in the Premier League saw foreign coaches take the post, and as of yet there has been little indication that either Ole Gunnar Solskjaer, Pepe Mel or Felix Magath can transform their respective clubs' fortunes. Bowyer says that he was perplexed that someone like Burnley boss Sean Dyche, who has brought Blackburn's rivals to the brink of the Premier League with a threadbare squad, is not being considered for such positions. Bowyer argued he's been overlooked for Premier League jobs this season. Why should he be overlooked? Obviously, I can't provide the answer, but it's something this country has got to be careful with. Now, Jamie Carragher on March 4th, 2014, wants to see a new rule introduced to stop football clubs changing their manager during the season. Currently, 52% of clubs in English football have a manager who has been at the helm for less than 1 year, while 8 bosses have been axed in the Premier League during this campaign alone, one shy of the Premier League record. Fulham, who are currently bottom of the Premier League, have had 3 full-time managers this term, and Norwich boss Chris Hughton is currently evens with Sky Bet, who was currently evens with Sky Bet at that point, to go following the 4-1 defeat against Aston Villa. But Jamie Carragher has said he would like managers to be given more protection and wants to see a new rule that blocks clubs from making changes mid-season. Now it's one of them ones. Also, he said you see the carry on at certain clubs when you have 2 or 3 managers in one season and it just looks like chaos. I think there should be a rule where if you pick a manager at the start of the season, then he should be your manager until the end. You've made that decision and you should have to stand by that. I think the chopping and changing of managers throughout the leagues is something that should stop in the season. Also, when a team sack a manager, if results aren't going well, they go and get a manager from somewhere else. That manager will normally be doing well, and that takes the manager away from a club and could affect their season as well. I think it would be something for our game to bring in, whether it's just in this country or around the world. Managers get a job at the start of the season and no one can be sacked or lose their job within the season. Now, you know what, yeah? Back in early December 2013, there were 7 managers that got sacked in 8 days. So the managerial merry-go-round is actually going mad. From the 25th of November to the 2nd of December, there were 7 managerial casualties. But rather than shock, there seems to be a degree of acceptability to the code that former England manager Graham Taylor calls part and parcel of the game. According to the League Managers Association, LMA, of the 19 managers to have left their job at that point, this was December 3rd, 17 were sacked and 2 resigned. No manager has left to join another club this season at that point. So there are a lot of new people coming into football and taking clubs over, running them like they would their business, said Graham Taylor. They are not used to their company not being at the top, and when it isn't, they make changes as if they would if their company was struggling. Now, I've said before that football clubs are ran like businesses.
Badly run businesses.
Extremely badly run businesses. Yeah, extremely badly run businesses. But the fact of the matter is, for me, the Chris Powell sacking, as the Gman does the Ric Flair strut back into the room, is one of them ones. The fact of the matter is, woo! But anyway, it's one of them ones. The Chris Powell sacking to me was a bolt out of the blue. Yeah. And Charlton, all of the great work that Chris Powell has done, I think has now been negated because of getting rid of a manager at this point in the season.
Absolutely, but then I also think Mr. Duchelet has a very big part in that. When you look at, I think it's a very similar setup to what's happening at Watford.
Yeah,
I think it's like the Pozzi family. They own Udinese
as well.
And a Spanish side whose name escapes me right now. Yeah, and they're bringing in the players from those 2 teams, and they've set it up as a kind of feeder club kind of arrangement.
Yeah.
Right. So it's all above board in terms of the players being able to move there, all the rest of it. It's just the sheer volume. Now, I understand that there's like 3 or 4 players that Chris Powell could have used in his last game in charge that was brought over from Standard Liège, and he didn't include them in the side, and I think that probably had a big part to play in him being sacked. But at the same time, you have to look at it. I mean, he's been a loyal servant to the club, not just as a player, but as a manager as well, and a very good manager at that. I would honestly put him up there with Alan Kirbishley, you know, in terms of quality of managers. So him going at this point in the season, for me, it makes very little sense from a footballing perspective. From a personal relationship and business perspective, it makes perfect sense. Riga and Duchesne have worked together before. They have history. I think this was, you know, the fact that the Standard Liège players weren't picked for the team in the last loss for Chris Powell actually was just icing on the cake. It was, you know, a little bit of truth for an excuse.
Yeah.
You know, to coin a phrase. And that was all that was needed, really. After that, it's just like, well, you have to go now. And that was it. Riga's now been installed, but do I think he'll perform any better? No, I don't. I think really they've missed the trick in letting Powell go, and I hope that he lands on his feet and he finds another job sharpish, because I think he was one of the best emerging young managerial talents that England has. And you know, Charlton are going to be worse off without him. You know, there's no two ways about that. But I do have to disagree with Mr. Carragher's suggestion of this having a manager for a whole season. I don't agree with it.
Why?
The reason why I don't agree with it, if a team really is performing that badly, and we've seen, you know, the effect that, you know, certain managers can have. For example, when Harry Redknapp took over at Spurs, right? Even when the King Kenny came back for Liverpool, right? If you were telling me that those two teams that stuck with the managers beforehand, do you really think that those seasons would have been safe? Absolutely not.
No, true, but at the
Absolutely
same time,
not.
you can't be having teams switching managers 2, 3, 4 times in a season.
No, I think you probably should limit the amount of times that you can change. But in those kind of scenarios, especially the two that I mentioned, the change was obviously needed. Something needed to happen. And in those two cases, they were inspirational changes. Liverpool go on to win the cup.
Yep.
Spurs go on to finish in Champions League. So, you know, it goes without saying. It's something that is necessary, because after a period of time, whether it's familiarity or unfamiliarity, it breeds contempt, not content.
It's definitely contempt.
And, you know, changes need to take place. So I quasi agree, I suppose is the best way for me to put it. I would say there probably should be a limit, but in certain cases, it's necessary. It's a necessary evil, because if it wasn't for the chopping and changing, like I say, King Kenny doesn't take over, then Liverpool probably get relegated. And Tottenham probably get relegated if Harry Redknapp doesn't take over. So are you really going to tell me that as a fan, you know, you're going to sit back and accept that? No, you're not.
But there's got to be something to arrest this change, because look at why would you get rid of a manager in March?
No,
that doesn't make any sense. Why would you get rid of a manager a day after the transfer window closes, the day before the transfer window closes? It's one of them ones. I mean, I almost kind of think that in theory there should be some sort of transfer window for managers, where if you want to get rid of a manager, you have to wait until the January window opens, for instance.
Okay.
Because at the end of the day, at least it's one of them ones where that manager would get at least half a season.
I can see how something like that would work, and I do agree with that in theory. But you know, the whole point that Jamie Carragher was making about other teams losing out because obviously the manager gets poached from that side. And
well, Dougie Friedman and Crystal Palace being in there.
I do agree to a point, but at the same time, that is, you know, that's the price that you pay for being successful in football, unfortunately. That's exactly how the game runs. It's one of those things that can't be avoided. So I don't know what he thinks the solution to that would be. I mean, how else are you going to do that? Even if you did it at the end of the season, it's like, listen, you're still taking away somebody who, do you know what I mean? That doesn't go anywhere. So for me personally, that's a bit of a point that you can just throw out and put in the back garden and bury it. I'm like, listen, don't come back with anything like that again. Just because for me, it doesn't work. It just doesn't work. Either way, that's going to happen, right? But certain times, like I said, in the case of, say, when King Kenny came back, when Harry Redknapp took over at Tottenham, that was what was needed. If those backroom staff weren't brought in, none of that would have happened, right? Yes, other people lose out. It's one of those, it's a fact of life, unfortunately. But if it means that the team able to go on, secure European football, secure a cup, as a fan, and as one of the players who in the dressing room under this other manager was suffering and wasn't particularly happy, are you really trying to tell me that you're going to be like, no, it's a terrible thing, let's not do it?
Yeah.
No.
But I think it's just the fact that it's happening so much, and every club is doing it. You got Sunderland as a managerial merry-go-round.
Yeah.
You got Chelsea as a managerial merry-go-round.
Yeah.
So it's one of them ones, man. It's nuts.
That is true, but then at the same time, you also have to understand that football as a game has changed considerably. I'm not talking,
not exactly for the better. Really.
I'm not talking about the game itself, but I'm talking about the wider impact of the game, okay? So you're going to need somebody who is media friendly, or at least will provide some kind of coach. You're going to need somebody who's actually going to win games, or lose games, as the case may be. If you're a Man United fan and you look at David Moyes. Yeah, I went there, I said it, But at the same time, football needs characters. Football is about entertainment in the wider sense. Yeah. So if there are a lot of things that aren't working, then you have to cut bait and live and let live. And the other thing as well is, look, personal relationships rule everything. Okay, let's not forget. In the case of Chris
this
Powell,
is business and it ain't personal.
But let's not.
In the words of Jay-Z and R. Kelly.
Let's not forget. In the case of Chris Powell, Riga and Duchesne, they go back. They have history.
Where did they go? Back.
Way back.
Way back.
Back into tap.
That was like a Futurama with the robot mafia getting the way back.
You know what I'll say on this point? Yeah,
Yo, let me speak on this.
I see some of the things that you got to say, and you know what? They are legitimate.
Yeah.
I agree with a few of them. Personally, I believe that you can have a 1 year contract and just keep it as a 1 year contract minimum for a manager.
Yeah.
Because like you said, the merry-go-round, it's getting silly. We saw it with Terry Connor, you alluded to.
I think
before.
it already is silly, to be honest.
We've seen it this season already, where we've seen Monk step in front of Laudrup.
Yeah. Malky Mackay.
We've seen it, Malky Mackay. We're seeing it now with Chris Powell, yeah. And you're talking about relationships, yeah. Well, how much of a relationship is a manager really building up with his players, yeah, in a relegation battle? Because all he's there to do, he's not there to build up relationships. He's just there to get results.
No, come on, you can't tell me.
Yeah, but if a manager's getting canned after like 2-3 months, like Martin Yo. If a manager only gets 2-3 months, they ain't getting a chance to build relationships.
Yeah, he's not ready.
It's over so quick.
It's not really building relationships though, because he's going in there and he's having to rely on people that the previous manager. In this day and age of football, where it seems like some clubs, there's players that are just after a while they're just not putting their efforts in because they know that after a couple more bad results they can get a manager sacked to get another manager in. Whereas
but this is what I mean.
They were in a predicament where managers weren't being sacked and they knew they had to stick with that man for the rest of the season, maybe players might just think, you know what, this is actually our careers on the line, because if we have a bad season and we get relegated, he's not just going, we're all going.
But I do buy into that, but then it could also go the other way. In that it's like, listen, me and this guy don't actually get on, so why am I going to play for him? Which is one of the points that I've made about this Manchester United team this season, in that David Moyes has come in, brought in his backroom staff, right? Essentially changed the style of play from what it was, right? Tried to be his own man, or Bertie Big Balls, as we like to say, right?
That's actually a John Sitton thing.
And it's actually gone backwards. It's gone completely the other way.
If that manager sort of had the security of knowing, look, I'm here for a season, there's no way no one can get me out here, then he'll have that security, and certain players can't play those sort of games, because it's like, if I don't perform, he's just going to isolate me, and then he's going to choose one of 20 other players and put in my position and play every week, even if he is worse off than me.
Yeah, but that helps the club get their power back in part.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. So isn't that better for a manager rather than a player? Because a player can just sit there now, like you said, Ashley Young sitting on the bench. Why wasn't he playing yesterday? What is he doing wrong that Januzaj is getting in front of him?
What was Zaha doing wrong? If rumours are to be believed,
He did a lot wrong. He did a lot wrong when he's not even a B or A plus player.
It's a rumour. That's why I'm asking. But that's why I'm asking the question though, because at the end of the day,
No, but this is what I
was
mean.
he doing wrong not to be playing?
It's about the relationship.
Yeah.
Right? Either you're behind the manager so that the manager can get behind you.
Sorry.
Come
Sorry.
on. You need Jesus.
Everything today.
But I'm talking about in the sense of either you're performing, right, and the manager can support that and say, actually, because of your performance, I'm going to play you on a consistent basis. It was just your reaction just there.
No, I just saw something in the Skype chat that was hilarious.
No, I saw that too. Yeah, either you're performing and the manager can back you because of performance, or you're not performing. You know, in a recent example, I would use somebody like Mesut Ozil.
Yeah.
Right? His manager's decided now to be like, actually, he needs a break.
Yeah,
He's
but
actually,
that's
Arsene Wenger came out.
That's just called man management.
No, but this is what I mean.
And talking about
it's about the relationship.
You know what?
Right about now, it's not really working.
but you know
Yeah, but
what?
it takes a long time
what?
to build those
You know
sort of
what? Going back to our clubs, yeah, classy clubs. When it comes to managers, our clubs are classy clubs. That's
Yeah.
the only reason why Moyes is still there at the moment.
No, I know.
Because our clubs are classy clubs. We don't just change a manager because they're having a bad season. We don't allow managers to go and spend a lot of money or make big changes in the club. Yeah, and then just because they're having bad runs going against them, then get rid of them. Yeah, other clubs do that. For some clubs it works, Chelsea, Man City. For other clubs it hasn't quite worked that well. But you know, it's that support of the manager. When you got that support of the manager, for me personally, just looking at Arsenal, it rolls onto the players because you know that manager's there behind you when he has bad times. You got to be there for him with that support. But when you've got players in a situation where it's like, you know what, the media are against the manager, fans are against the manager, we can get rid of this guy, then they start putting in those dowsy performances, and I just don't get it.
But the thing is, the football industry is completely backwards in comparison to the wrestling industry. The wrestling industry, you got what? You got basically a poor creative team, and it's the wrestler who gets fired. In football, it's the complete reverse, and it's backwards. And both industries are backwards because at the end of the day, if a football team does badly, it's not the players who get sacked, it's the managers. Which is just it's backwards in both ways. It's just so backwards. The managerial merry-go-round is just backwards to me. It's what blame travels up, praise travels down.
That's it, literally.
And then in every other industry, it's the other way completely. Corporate world, completely different. But I mean, we've got Tom Wood and Russ Vernon who wanted to have a quick point on the Chris Powell sacking and the managerial merry-go-round as well. Tom Wood, have that yours first, and then we'll go to Russ Vernon, and then we've got a special surprise for everyone. Tom, you there? Oh, all right. Tom's gonna be right back. All right, Russ Vernon, do you want to jump in?
So I've posted a link in the chat earlier from one of the articles which I've been reading over the week about Chris Powell, and according to that article which I've put in the chat, which I'll put in again later on so you can all have a read again. Apparently it wasn't down to the results basis he was sacked or his excuses, because it was deep further beneath that. It's because he wants to fetch in a manager from Denmark, all in the new owner of Charlton. And to be honest, like I said on the Pitch Talk Facebook when I put it up, he shouldn't have been sacked. Wrong. He's doing a brilliant job. He was doing a brilliant job for Charlton. He's doing well. Did well to take them where they are. Did well to take them where they got to in the champion into the FA Cup and won the league title last season, breaking the points record in 2012 as well. And they got a good point against Huddersfield as well. When they played against us, they didn't have the best of days because the pitch wasn't that good at the Valley, but we all have those with the weather. And so I thought it would be. So when I heard that news, I was a bit shocked. It seemed that he actually got sacked. A tweet here from Simon Thomas. He said, Powell was offered a new contract last week, signed it, was returned by Roland Dutchlet, unsigned with the message, you're sacked. And if that's the case, I feel for Chris Powell. And like it says on here, it says this person who wrote this article, Gman Gezzie, but most of all, you feel sorry for Chris Powell. Perhaps this isn't our saving grace with his talents. He will no doubt go to be an highly successful British manager for the future of Charlton Athletic. For him and for me, I am fearful because I think now with Charlton got Jose Rigoera, I'm not sure how good a manager he is. I can see them not doing very good now and kind of dropping down to the third tier of English football again. Don't know what you reckon to that, Liam.
Well, for me, it's a case of the whole Chris Powell thing. It was a bolt out of the blue, like I said a minute ago. But the fact of the matter is, I said it's this managerial merry-go-round that can't be allowed to continue in its current form because it's just insane. Tom Wood, you back with us?
Yeah.
You wanted to jump in on the Chris Powell sacking, didn't you?
Yeah, I was talking to a load of fat Southend fans on Saturday, and they were saying that some of them were saying that they wanted Chris Powell to take over from Phil Brown if he leaves the club at the end of the season, but I doubt he will. But it's stupid if they want Powell in instead of Brown when Brown's done a marvellous job with us.
But see, this is the thing. Some fans are ultra fickle, which doesn't help. And then when you've got owners who are in charge of clubs and know nothing about football, then that's even worse because they're going to get influenced by that.
Yeah,
that kind of fickle.
That is true, and we have seen a lot of business people, and that's what I'm going to say about them. They are business people. They're not football people.
Yeah. That
have come in with a business mentality, thinking that they can run a football club like they would run a Fortune 500 company.
Yeah. Everyone can't be at the top. That's the thing. It's one of them ones. It's like, what's it? When I posted yesterday on my Facebook page, Straight Shootin LJA, about the Liverpool result and then Nathan McCreef put on about it's a fatal four-way for the English Premier League right
WrestleMania
now.
2000.
And it's one of them ones. I thought to myself, it just reminded me of WWE Vengeance 2001. The night Jericho became the undisputed champion. Yeah. It was one of them ones. Four men, three matches, one undisputed title. Yeah. And I'm thinking right now, 4 teams, 1 goal, 1 Premier League title winner. That's what I would think. But the fact of the matter is only one person, only one entity, only one team can occupy top spot at any one time.